And we're live all the way from the sunny southeast of Ireland. Not so sunny today, as you can see behind me. Anyway, great to have you. We've got a lot going on. We've been talking about The View a lot, but I got to tell you, we now have, I think, what I would consider the greatest proof yet that this administration is not going to stand for any of this, like any of it. They are sick and tired of the lies. They're sick and tired of all the bogus things done by the media over the last however many years. I mean, you can go all the way back to 2016 now. They've had it, and this FCC means business. Wait till you see the latest from the FCC chair. I'm going to share that with you. Plus, well, the CIA's kind of had it too. I mean, you get Director Radcliffe teaming up with Tulsi Gabbard saying, guys, like enough is enough. And what you did is really pretty darn, well, in the words of Tulsi, treasonous, treasonous. That's what she's calling it. So they're calling for arrest. They want to see indictments of none other than Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, and James Comey. I mean, you wonder why Peter Strzok, remember him? Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, the dynamic duo that thought that somehow Trump would never get elected because we were going to, quote, stop it. Well, Peter Strzok just went and took everything down from Twitter. X, as we now call it. He doesn't want any evidence out there. And I got to say, you know, the Democrats are really panicking. I mean, they are in a total full-on panic mode over these crazy low poll numbers. But, you know, are you surprised? I'm not surprised. I mean, when you're looking at AOC and Mamdani as your, you know, latest and greatest things, you're effectively turning to communism and turning your back on everything that has made our nation a success. So to hell with you, right? That's what we figured, to hell with you. You know what? America's done with you. You guys, you're gonna have to do more than bro podcasts and more than the workout videos to pull this all back together. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Eric Swalwell, he's got the best. I'm going to show you. In today's episode of the Trish Regan Show, make sure you subscribe, share, like, and comment. We are live and I can see it all. The media is definitely under fire right now. The FCC is ratcheting up the situation. Brendan Carr actually spoke out about this week on Fox, and it was amazing because it was literally The View that they were talking about. And what have I been telling you guys over and over and over again? I mean, I realized Colbert got kicked to the curb, but that was kind of expected. I mean, you got a combo effect going on. You've got a combination of the media landscape changing, right? A lot of people are coming over to here, YouTube, because, well, there's a little more authenticity. There's less management structure, a little less people in the way saying you can say this, you can't say that, et cetera. Believe me, I know. I've been there. I've worked at all the networks. This is the first time in my career I don't have to use a prompter. How great is that, right? I mean, they made you use one. Literally, like I'd have to get my commentaries signed off on every night. Kid you not, it was really annoying. Anyway, especially like when they would decide 5 minutes before air that they didn't like something, that was really, really annoying. Brendan Carr went on to Fox, where, yeah, they check your commentaries, and spoke out about this, specifically about The View. Because you see, the White House had tweeted or put on social media, what do we call it now? You know, when you put something up on X, I guess you posted. You posted. They have been posting about The View over the weekend, saying what a rotten show it was and how its days were numbered. And the fact that you've got now the FCC chair, Brendan, weighing in on this, he's the one that controls the airwaves because he controls whether or not the affiliates can have their license, right, to operate as an ABC affiliate. That comes straight from the FCC. All of this is in danger right now. The president saying it, even over the weekend on True Social, that, you know what, we control these licenses. Don't forget who's in control of the licenses. So, you know, you guys better shape up. Just give 50-50. 50-50. It's not like we're asking for, you know, bias towards the president, but can you be a little bit more fair? Have you heard of that? Here's Brendan.
Let's go to The View, shall we? Joy Behar yesterday said this.
First of all, who tried to overthrow the government on January 6th?
Wait, let me think. Who
was that again? That was not Obama. The thing about him is that he's so jealous of Obama because Obama is everything that he is not.
Yeah.
Trim.
Yeah.
Smart, handsome,
happily
married, and can sing Al Green's song, Let's Stay Together, better than Al Green.
Yeah.
And Trump cannot stand it. It's driving him crazy. Jealousy is not green is not a good color.
That from yesterday. Who knows what happens today? The White House chose to respond to that. And this is what they said. Joy Behar is an irrelevant loser suffering from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. It's no surprise that The View's ratings hit an all-time low last year. She should self-reflect on her own jealousy of President Trump's historic popularity before her show is the next to be pulled off air, end quote. Is The View now in the crosshairs of this administration?
Look, it's entirely possible that there's issues over there. I mean, again, stepping back, this broader dynamic, once President Trump has exposed these media gatekeepers and smashed this facade, there's a lot of consequences. And I think the consequences of that aren't quite finished. And look, The View's got a lot of challenges there. It wasn't that long ago, I think one episode, one show alone, they had to stop, interrupt the show, and read 4 separate legal notices to try to avoid legal liability. So I'm not surprised to hear people saying that their ratings are struggling.
Well, sir, where does this end then?
Look, I think we need a course correction. You know, it's time for America's legacy broadcasters to return to promoting the public interest. And just recently, Skydance, which is looking to acquire CBS, wrote letters to the FCC committing to serious change, to trying to root out bias, to putting in place an ombudsman that would address these issues, to returning to unbiased, trustworthy journalism. That's where we have to go. And I think we're getting some wins along the way. It's trust but verify at the end of the day. You know, we're not where we need to go. But I think this legacy media really needs to reorient, or they're going to continue to run into issues like Colbert, where it just doesn't make economic sense to run a partisan circus.
Yeah, and that's what it was, right? A partisan circus. Oh, there was this great little moment that came out online yesterday. Apparently, they were going to have a protest at CBS and Paramount in defense of Stephen Colbert and his show, and like 12 people showed up. So I guess he really isn't as popular as he thinks. I mean, he's got a whole bunch of problems, and that show really suffered from its inability, shall we say, to keep up with the times. I mean, for example, I'll give you a little example, right? If I wanted to use a Stephen Colbert clip here on the Trish Regan Show over here on YouTube, I couldn't. You know why? I'd get hit with a copyright strike because Colbert and CBS and Paramount would say, we don't want you using that. And you couldn't argue fair use or anything. And so that was a problem in that when you think about the new media world in which we live, a lot of things are seen in clips and a lot of people respond to things in clips. And so if you don't get to see that little clip on Twitter or on YouTube or anywhere, X, forgive me, well, then you're kind of not part of the conversation. And that's in part what happened to Stephen Colbert. The other thing is just the reality of they clearly didn't run a very tight ship. Clearly they were paying him a little too much, right? If they're losing $30-40 million a year, you can't sustain that. I mean, it's wild. They actually want Letitia James to fight for them. The Writers Guild has come out and said, but it should still air because it's so important to the brand, to CBS. Who the heck cares about the brand when you're losing $30-40 million a year? You guys have bigger problems, okay? But part of that was sure. Okay, maybe advertisers didn't want to advertise on that particular show because it had gone so toxic, if you would. I mean, he had only one thing he could talk about, and it was politics. And his politics were really, really aggressive. But simultaneously, they were just not running a very good ship. And so the same concern actually is plaguing The View right now. I mean, we know about the View's bias. For goodness sakes, it was Hillary Clinton that promoted her lies on The View nonstop, remember?
There is no denying that the Russians interfered in the election. Right. Whether or not they had willing or unwitting help from the Trump team, they interfered. And they did so to help him and hurt me. And they did so to destabilize our democracy. And they have not stopped. I mean, there's been enough public testimony before Congress now by very distinguished, experienced intelligence professionals who all say the same thing. This is a clear and present danger to our country. Yeah. And I think it's important. And I would say this.
Yeah, Hillary. We know what you guys were doing now. We know all about it. I mean, we kind of knew before, but now it's been cemented and verified by Tulsi Gabbard's documentation release. So you guys don't really have a whole lot of places to go. I mean, that's why Peter Strzok, I suppose, is taking down all his tweets. I suppose that's why Brennan said he was lawyering up lawyering up in a big way, because, the media was just constantly doing more and more of this. I mean, CNN caught in the same position. This guy, he's no longer there. Joy Behar's no longer over at MSNBC. You get a lot of people, I think, that have left the mainstream media because they were so toxic. Maybe Colbert was to a certain extent part of that. Whoopi certainly is. Joy Behar certainly is. Sunny Houston certainly is. So Bob Iger has a little problem there on his hands. But, CNN knew what to do with this one.
Maybe the biggest lie of all, repeatedly and with no facts to back him up, making the outrageous claim that the so-called deep state spied on his campaign. He did it again today.
But I hope it's not true, but it looks like it is.
It's not true. It's a lie.
Did the intelligence community spy on President Trump and his campaign?
No, we did not.
This is not just an angry president popping off. This is a deliberate and coordinated effort to save his presidency, to cast doubt on the Russia investigation by repeating a lie, repeating it every chance he gets. And that repetition is a key part of the strategy here, because if you hear him say the same thing over and over and over, it gets into your head. You may even start to wonder if there's some truth to it.
This concerning new report accusing President Obama's CIA of curating the 2016 Russia collusion hoax by asking foreign intelligence agencies to illegally spy on the Trump campaign.
Yep.
John Brennan had identified 26 Trump associates for the Five Eyes to target. A source confirmed that the IC had identified them as people to bump or
you
make
guys,
contact.
it's unbelievable, right? And everything that Tulsi has reported, and we can get into that in greater depth today, but everything that she has reported shows that this was very much a coordinated move. Joy Behar earlier talking about how Trump has a fragile ego. I'm kind of thinking that it's Obama who had the fragile ego. Obama could not take the idea that after 8 years of his tremendous legacy and all that he was able to get accomplished, suddenly Donald Trump was waltzing into the place. And, in his eyes, or his view, was going to stink up the joint. Well, guess what? Donald Trump got in there because of Obama, because people had it. They had it under 8 years of Democrat rule. They were sick and tired of it. And they said, we're ready for a change. We're going to roll the dice on this guy. What do you know? And Obama was so upset by that December 8th of 2000, I guess it would be 15, right? It's 2016, forgive me, 2016, December 8th. He held a meeting in his office. He had all the bigwigs there. And he said, guess what? We're going to unleash the intelligence community to follow this narrative, even though they knew the narrative wasn't true, even though they already had reports from the FBI and the DNI saying this is not true, that Russia had no effect on the election. And yet they came forward with lie after lie after lie, and we had to sit there and we had to listen to it on every single network from every single Democrat. This was Obama's excuse for why he wasn't able to hand the reins over to Hillary Clinton. It was Hillary Clinton's excuse. It was the Democrats' constant excuse, and it was gross. Watch.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
The one thing that Trump is fearful of when it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
I have an objection.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
Do you believe Trump is a legitimate president?
What I believe is that there's no question that the outcome of this election was affected by
unbelievable. I mean, we could watch that all day. I think there's a 10-minute long clip on the internet of all of these people saying the exact same thing. And they just figured, if we just repeat this story enough, maybe it'll sink in. That was the intention anyway. And they had the mainstream media willing to carry their water for them. I mean, they would just call up the New York Times or the Washington Post, and what do you know? Sources say, nonstop. So they really cultivated that media relationship. And now, Brandon Carr, Donald Trump, they're out there ready, willing, and able to break it. Break it not because you need one side or another, right? Let me be very clear on that. We need our freedom of speech. But you can't have 99% negative on one candidate and 99% positive on the other candidate. Something's kind of off at that point. When you do not have a diversity of viewpoints around the table or in your newsroom, you're going to have some problems. And this is what Brendan Carr noticed. This is what he's onto. This is what Donald Trump, frankly, was able to cut through in a rather miraculous way when you think about it. Let's watch Brendan explain this here on Newsmax. You know, another one of those alternatives.
Yeah, something really significant is happening right here. And it goes back to President Trump. When he ran for office again, he ran directly at these legacy national broadcasters. And for years, people cowed down to the executives behind these companies based in Hollywood, in New York, and they just accepted that these national broadcasters could dictate how people think about topics, that they could set the narrative for the country. And President Trump fundamentally rejected it. He smashed the facade that these are gatekeepers that can determine what people think. And everything that we're seeing right now flows from that decision by President Trump, and he's winning. I mean, look, PBS has been defunded. NPR has been defunded. CBS is committing to restoring fact-based journalism. And you see it, everything from, Joy Reid is gone at MSNBC. All these things aren't isolated pinpricks. They go back to this emperor has no clothes moment where President Trump stood up to these legacy media gatekeepers, and now their business models are falling apart.
And that's it. Okay, pretty simple. I mean, it was good timing for him. I don't know if he could have done it. If you think about it, 30 years ago, he came along at the right time. It's kind of like, I look at YouTube and I'm like, gosh, I wish I had done this 20 years ago. I wish I had done this 10 years ago. I mean, better late than never, right, guys? Reminder, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. We're on our way to 1 million subs. Really, really big deal. And this show has most consistently been in the top 100 YouTube podcasts. So I thank you for all of that, for all that support. But it shows that there's a hunger and a need for something different. And I'll tell you, the media, they're not going to be let off the hook with this one. They're just not. And here's what it's going to come down to. The FCC has the power to revoke broadcast licenses. You think about ABC, CBS, NBC. This is why NBC is in part splitting off Comcast, right? Saying, okay, NBC, you're going to do your thing. You're going to be part of the parent company. We want you. MSNBC and all you cable companies, you're going to go do something else. There's some economic reasons for that, but there may be some political reasons too, because again, they don't need the headache, right? There's only one way. Their way or the highway the entire time. Joy Reid, she went bye-bye. Maybe a few more will. Maybe Rachel Maddow. I don't know. She gets good ratings. Maybe Jen Psaki. She doesn't. Or maybe you fill yourself up on the Jen Psakis, the no-names of the world. Remember Little Peppermint Patty? You get a few more of those, you pay them very little money, and then you at least keep the lights on because it's a dying business, right? So at some point it goes. In terms of the actual big networks, well, the FCC has quite a bit of power because you see they control the licenses that are given out to ABC, NBC, and CBS. And as The View goes on hiatus, one has to wonder if there's some negotiation going on behind the scenes. I mean, Bob Iger already told them this is the CEO of Disney, who spoke to the guy who's the president of ABC News, who spoke to the executive producer on the show. They all sat them down and said, hey guys, can we do some other stories? Do you have some entertainment stories you might want to do? No. They want to stick with politics all day long, and they think that that's actually what's working. And they point to their ratings and they're like, look, we're not getting killed. Okay, we're not doing as well as you were. Let's be very clear. You may not be getting killed, but the advertisers aren't happy because you guys have become toxic. So the FCC licenses all stations all around the country, right? They don't license ABC News directly, ABC directly, but they give the licenses out to all the different ABC stations. ABC itself only owns about 7 of them. Right? Like they call them O&Owns, owned and operated. And so most of these are not owned by the network. And so if it's not considered to be in the public interest, guess what? Brendan Carr and the FCC, Donald Trump's FCC, can just take away that license because you have to be meeting your public interest obligations. Otherwise, your license can be challenged, limited, or revoked. And that's where ABC finds itself right now. I mean, Carr has been all over them for a while. He's talked about their conduct. He actually pointed to the $16 million in a letter to Bob Iger that they had to pay out, pointing to the fact that, hey, the fact that you guys had to settle this lawsuit, that's actually proof in and of itself that your bias was so extraordinary. That's because of Georgie Poo. Remember George Stephanopoulos, who's somehow still on the morning show, even though he keeps threatening to walk? I think I think they're going to get rid of him. My 2 cents of it. Anyway, so they had to settle that one because of the defamation case over there, which again causes the public to not trust them as much. And so he has voiced this concern. He did say, Carr wrote in a letter to Iger, quote, "My understanding is that ABC is attempting to extract onerous financial and operational concessions from local broadcast TV stations under the threat of terminating long-held affiliations, which could result in blackouts and other harms to local consumers of broadcast news and content." So now he's taking the side of the affiliates. He's like, what the heck are you doing, ABC? You're forcing them to take all that awful content from Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar? I don't think so. You know, they really shouldn't have to pay that much for that. Frankly, it should be like the inverse. Like the network should be paying the affiliates to have to carry that garbage, right? He also raised the concern about some of the remaining available streaming services that, you know, this is where it gets a little murky and a little wonky, but, you know, basically saying that, again, they're charging them too much for some of these deals. But this is the big thing that he pointed out. And I want to keep going back to this because this is something important. I highlighted it in the letter. Quote, "The fact that a massive trust divide has emerged between local news outlets and national programmers like ABC only increases the importance," he said, "of retransmission consent revenues remaining available for local broadcast TV stations to invest in their local news operations and the content that serves their communities." In other words, what he's telling them is forget The View. These little stations shouldn't have to pay to have that garbage on television. They should be able to do their own version of The View and have a local view. And hey, wouldn't that be more entertaining to watch than Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and Sonny and the rest of them all day long? So that's a big, big, big deal. And I'm telling you, it's not just the issue of their sort of nauseating misinformation and the lack of diversity of opinion. It's also this DEI thing that was going on. So he's discovered a lot of interesting information on the DEI front. And now he's going to the networks and saying, well, wait, what were you doing here? What were you doing with these DEI initiatives? I just want to show you what he told CNBC. This is about 8 weeks ago or so. And this is another thing that puts ABC, if you would, in the crosshairs.
Another issue that you've gone after is the DEI policies, specifically a really sharply worded note to Bob Iger on Disney. What is the status of those investigations, and how are you even going about doing them?
Yeah, the first thing we did, basically day one after President Trump came in, he issued an executive order to end the federal government's promotion of DEI. We did that at the FCC. I mean, you'd be shocked. We were spending millions and millions of dollars at the FCC promoting DEI. In fact, it was listed as the agency's #2 budget priority and strategic priority. We've ended that to focus on our core mission. We've told everybody that's trying to do deals before the FCC that they need to end their own promotion of invidious forms of DEI. Disney and ABC in particular are ones that I'm very concerned about. The preliminary data indicates that they look like they were doing intentional discrimination, potentially along race and gender. And if that's true, that's a really big deal. And so we're looking at that at the FCC.
And what sort of consequences would you be looking at that?
Well, again, it's the full suite of consequences that the FCC could potentially have. So we're going to look at that. But again, the media stuff gets a lot of attention, particularly by the media because it involves the media. But our traditional economic agenda is what we're really pushing hard on as well. And that's the deregulation effort. Look, we've got to get more spectrum out there. If you remember the first Trump administration, we got tons of airwaves out there. It helped bolster our leadership in 5G. During the Biden years, we really fell behind. So right now, we have to get at least 600 megahertz of spectrum out there. Particularly when we look at AI, that's loading tons of new data onto our networks. We need more spectrum to carry that capacity. That's one of the most important things we're doing.
Okay, but not done with the Disney thing. One more question.
They're a little worried. They're a little worried, yeah, at all the networks right about now. ABC most especially. They have very, very good reason to worry because of some of the things that they did, right? Molly Hemingway broke this down beautifully on Fox yesterday. I want to show you this soundbite just because it's so succinct and it's so good. And she sort of sums up the media's entire problem that, you know, they don't seem to understand over at CNN and some of these other places. Here she is.
What happened when you go back to 2016 is the Obama administration hid intelligence showing that Russia's meddling in the 2016 election was no big deal. They suppressed that because they didn't want Donald Trump to know about it. Then they immediately began leaking to the Washington Post and to the New York Times false things that weren't true, the opposite, that Russia had conspired with Trump to steal the election. And the Washington Post and New York Times, when they were asked to publish these things that were not true, they just went ahead and did it. They took the word of John Brennan and other sources like that who had made these false claims. Then the Obama administration manufactures a completely fake intelligence assessment, again with this claim that Russia had conspired with Trump to steal the election, and they leaked that to the media as well. Well, when they were receiving these leaks, the media did whatever these people wanted. They pushed this absolutely delusional conspiracy theory for years. And now that we know that, and it was a fake story, now that we know the real story, and the real story is shocking. The Obama administration suppressed real intelligence, and then they manufactured fake intelligence for the purpose of undermining a legitimately elected administration. The media are hiding it. And why? Because they were complicit in the crimes that were committed. They can't very well report what actually happened because the whole conspiracy would have gone nowhere if the media hadn't been so willing to just republish these lies from Obama officials.
Okay, bump to bump. All right, well said, Molly. So that's part of the big problem. So they're not reporting on a lot of the stuff that they ought to be reporting on, including what the CIA is saying right about now, including what Tulsi Gabbard is saying. They're trying to, what are they going to tell this? Those are lies too, even though all the documentation came out. It's kind of amazing. Well, it's because they're freaking out. They're actually really and truly freaking out because they know that they're the ones in trouble now. Just like Peter Strzok is freaking out and he's deleted all of his tweets from X. You've got Brennan lawyering up. You've got Comey. He was freaking out all along. Everybody's freaking out, sure, including the media. And they're going to try and tell you, oh, it's big bad Trump. Guys, look in the mirror. For goodness sakes. I mean, this guy really doesn't want to look in the mirror that often. I'm sorry. But at least he's not hosting a show anymore. Another amazing thing, like nobody knows how to pick talent. I'm not saying you have to be like, Mr. Universe or anything, but this one has a special look.
And to the broader point, Brian, the Wall Street Journal is just one of many news organizations that Trump has been trying to sue. Over the weekend, President Trump also threatened TV licenses as well, posting this on Truth Social, saying that he wants some licenses, unclear exactly which ones, to be revoked, calling the networks political pawns for Democrats. This isn't the first time that Trump has talked about doing this. Why is this threat different? Is it possible for some kind of licensing to be revoked?
Well, I think it hits differently now because of the recent Paramount settlement and the back and forth between the owners of CBS, recently resulting in the merger being approved by Trump's FCC. So here's the boring, basic thing about licenses. Normally, they're nonpartisan. They're just renewed almost with a rubber stamp every 8 years. The FCC is the agency that does this. Again, normally kind of a rather mundane exercise, not very newsworthy. But Trump is trying to make it newsworthy by threatening some of these stations. By the way, networks are not licensed nationally, only broadcast stations. And channels like this one, CNN, are not licensed at all. It's really only local broadcast stations. Now, we know that President Trump has already successfully defunded PBS and NPR, those local stations across the country. So we see that he is continuing to try to tighten his grip on the American news media with some success to some degree. I've been speaking with scholars who studied Viktor Orban's attempts to do this in Hungary. Hungary is a country where we've seen real democratic backsliding in the past decade, a real sense of growing autocracy there. Here's what one of those scholars said to me. He was comparing what Orban did in Hungary to what Trump is trying to do in the U.S. Gabor Shiring saying to me, Orban's media takeover began with public broadcasting. The next step was the takeover and the muzzling of independent media. Orban achieved this through financial and legal means, a system of autocratic carrots and sticks. So on the one hand, you encourage your friends in the press, you give them favored treatment. On the other hand, you use sticks against the ones that you want to punish.
Yeah, okay.
With these posts on Truth Social over the weekend, Trump is giving examples of the sticks, right? He's threatening licenses in a vague way.
That poor guy. Anyway, you can tell yourself whatever you want. I'd actually say Obama had wonderful control over the media for 8 years. Oh, for longer than 8 years, actually, for 16 years, because clearly he still has some influence. I mean, think about them trying to put up Joe Biden, poor Joe Biden, who was just a mess. And anybody that dared to even ever question Joe Biden and his mental acuity, you're in trouble. How dare you? How dare you? Jake Tapper might actually get after you. In fact, he got after Larry Trump, and then he turned around. We've got all the proof of it. And, you know, Peter Strzok, you can take down all of your tweets. It doesn't matter. This is the FBI guy. Remember Lisa Page and Peter Strzok? They kind of had that happy little relationship that wasn't so happy. Yeah. Peter Strzok taking down everything. Just as John Radcliffe, the head of the CIA, told my friend and former colleague Maria Bartiromo this over the weekend. I want you to listen really hard because this is a big deal. And she got it out of him. In other words, we want accountability. Accountability, that is the name of the day. Okay? Listen.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. DNI Gabbard has made referrals, and why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word...
You heard that, right? I heard that. Tulsi has used the word treason, by the way. That's where she's going. Because Tulsi, she's not taking this sitting down. I mean, don't forget, they're the ones that called her a Russian spy, former member of the military, Tulsi Gabbard. She's a former Democrat. But, like, she was too threatening to Hillary Clinton. So what did they do? They tried to turn all this Russia craziness on her. I mean, she's seen it before. And now the former attorney for Donald Trump, David Schoen, he was on Newsmax saying, you know what, accountability is coming, and it will happen. And here's the thing. Obama, you know, because of what the Supreme Court decided on, you know, not being able to go after presidents after the fact, it would be much harder to go after Obama. But guess what? Everybody else, including perhaps Hillary Clinton, is fair game. Watch.
Yet they went and testified before Congress that they believed he had. So what kind of accountability repercussions could Obama, Comey, and Brennan at the least face?
Let's put President Obama to the side just for a second. As for the others, I mean, if the evidence really shows what is being talked about now, and it can be proven, then certainly those others could be charged with seditious conspiracy under 18 U.S.C. 2384, undermining our government, undermining the will of the voters, certainly obstruction of justice, certainly perjury. They'd all be entitled to the presumption of innocence, but those are the kinds of charges that could be brought.
Wow. So this is getting serious. I mean, and again, like, it needs to be serious. It needs to be serious because of what they did over and over again and how they tried to take down someone. I mean, I'm still waiting on, for goodness sakes, Letitia James and that $500 million and that ridiculous settlement that they had in New York. That was her way of trying to take him down. Think of how wrong that was. By the way, all while she was allegedly committing mortgage fraud herself. I mean, the irony of that one. But don't forget for 2 seconds. I'm just going to play this, like 15 seconds of it, because it's astonishing. It's astonishing, the narrative that they tried to weave together and to sell to the American people. And you know what? Here's what's great. Here's what's great for the American people. They weren't buying it. You know, they knew it was lies.
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election. And he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia...
All right? So that was a total way to try and undermine the will of the American people. That, I think, is probably the biggest scandal we have ever had, certainly in modern political history. And what's amazing to me is they kept it up. They kept up all the lies. They just lied. They're like, okay, Hunter Biden's laptop, which was Hunter Biden's laptop. And by the way, the FBI was investigating him already, and they knew it was his laptop. And yet, what did they do? I mean, you had, this is unbelievable, the deputy director of the CIA, along with Comey and Brennan and the whole crowd, right, coming out and saying it was nothing but misinformation fed to you courtesy of the Russians and Rudy Giuliani, even though they knew it was real. And they got 51 ex-spooks to sign off on that. And then during the actual debate in 2020, Biden kept going back to it. And he was pushing the misinformation. He knew it was his son's laptop. He knew his son was being investigated by the FBI, and yet we heard this.
Talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
I have to respond to that.
Please,
because look,
very quickly.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here
Mr.
we go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr.
I mean, it's actually kind of comical, right? Because she's like, no, I actually want to talk about race. Let's get back to race. And Biden's like pushing this whole Russia thing, I mean, which was all fake. We all know, I mean, you want to talk Russia? We can really talk Russia. We can talk about Putin's dirt on Clinton. How about that? I mean, if he really wanted to do Hillary Clinton in, I think he would have gone with this little doozy, number 1, right? Page 17 from Tulsi's release there. This is unbelievable. The Russian intel that was apparently acquired on Hillary Clinton. The top one just really throws me. Internal claims that Hillary was on heavy tranquilizers and suffering intensified psycho-emotional problems. Wow. You know, that actually helps make some things make sense. Right? You know, you would see her occasionally and she didn't look so steady and she looked kind of out of it. And we heard some things about her temper, this, that, and the other. Well, page 17, it's got it all. It's got it all. And Tulsi's right. You know what? This can't happen. This just actually can't happen in a democracy. You think about what Dan Bongino was tweeting the other day, and I know we were all suspicious. Was he talking about Jeffrey or was he actually talking about other things? He later specified that he was not talking about that one particular scandal that has engrossed the Democrats and some members of MAGA alike. He wasn't talking about that. He was actually talking, he said, about this sort of broader overall system. And he said, we can't run a republic like this. Well, you can't run a republic like this when people are doing things that Tulsi is now telling us and making us aware of. I mean, you got to have indictments coming forward for these folks. Watch.
There's no question in my mind that this intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered be published, which contained a manufactured intelligence document. It's worse than even politicization of intelligence. It was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people. So yes, next week we will be releasing more detailed information about how exactly this took place and the extent to which this information was sought to be hidden from the American people, hidden from officials who would be in a position to do something about it. And that's really the point here that I think is most important, Maria, and you said it in your opening. Accountability is essential for the future of our country, for the American people to have any sense of trust in the integrity of our democratic republic. Accountability, action, prosecution, indictments for those who are responsible for trying to steal our democracy is essential for us to make sure that this never happens to our country again.
Hello? Yes. Yes, 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 and yes. And I realize, you know, we don't want to be vindictive, right? But how do you ensure that this doesn't happen again? In other words, it deserves a punishment. It deserves to be called out. You can't allow for whoever's, and it works both ways, right? It's not a Republican or Democrat thing. And this is another point that Tulsi has made. It's not political. Heck, she was a Democrat, for goodness sakes. Watch.
Investigated, some arrested and jailed. We had heightened and increased.
I'm going to go back to the beginning of this one.
And I just want to start by saying that this is an issue that is important to every single one of us as Americans. This is not a partisan issue. It has to do with the integrity and the strength of our democratic republic. And it lays out this over 100 documents that you're referencing that I released, declassified and released, spells out in great detail exactly what happens when you have some of the most powerful people in our country directly leading at the helm, President Obama, and his senior-most national security cabinet, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, and Susan Rice, and others, essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people who in November of 2016...
You can't do that, okay? Like, you can't do that. And you certainly can't ever do that again. Obama couldn't take the fact that Donald Trump had won. Hillary Clinton couldn't take that fact. And so they came up with, well, a whole other set of facts. And they blamed it on Russia. And they said, Russia is the reason Donald Trump won. And that had nothing to do with anything. Anyway, there will be accountability. You better believe it. And we're going to be all over it here every day on this show. Because you know what we have to be? This is part of protecting the American system and our great republic. Meanwhile, also trying to protect it. Pam Bondi, she's going to war here with Judge Boasberg. Did you see this one? You got a rogue judge, well, a few rogue judges out there. One of them is Judge Boasberg, who intervened and interfered when they were trying to transport people that were criminals, they said, out of the country. And they were trying to send them because they were members of a criminal gang, either to El Salvador or in some cases Venezuela. And this guy comes into the mix and he's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And eventually, the Supreme Court came forward and said, hey, Judge Boasberg, you do not have the jurisdiction to be able to tell Trump he can't do that. The case then went to Texas. They have not actually ruled on the Aliens Enemy Act of 17-something, but that particular act was what the Trump administration was basing its deportations on. And it said, look, if you are a threat to the country, then you're going to be out. And in this case, you had people deemed to be threats because they were a member of this Venezuelan gang, and we don't have a very good relationship with Venezuela, et cetera. Anyway, Pam came out blazing here last night, saying, today at my direction, the Justice Department filed a misconduct complaint against U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg for making improper public comments about President Trump and his administration. These comments have undermined the integrity of the judiciary, and we will not stand for that. She wants to make sure, you see, that an investigation is brought into the judge, because you actually can't do this. So I know everybody has First Amendment rights, but if you're a judge, especially a federal judge, you're actually held to a higher standard. And that means you can't just mouth off on your own political biases or what you think the president may or may not do. You actually have to be uber respectful of this sort of position, right, that you hold. Apparently he wasn't so respectful, because according to Pam Bondi, the judge, who, by the way, is still presiding over some rather high-profile cases, he actually, and this was the guy with the signal stuff too, remember? He said some things in a meeting with some other judges that were of concern. He basically really let loose. And according to Pam, on March 11th, 2025, while attending a session of the Judicial Conference of the United States, which is existing to discuss administrative matters like budget, security, facilities. Apparently, while he was there, he attempted to, quote, improperly influence Chief Justice Roberts and roughly 24 other federal judges by straying from the traditional topics to express his belief that the Trump administration would disregard rulings of federal courts and trigger a constitutional crisis. So he kind of just decided to spout off on all the reasons he hates Trump and all the reasons why he thinks it's really important that all of these people band together and, somehow manage this before it becomes, in his view, out of control. And the problem with that is, as I said, these guys are held to a very different standard. So, they're inappropriate in that sense. And that's her point. So she would like an investigation. She would like an investigation into this guy, because she's like, it's not right. You can't be doing that. And it's not appropriate for a judge. And as I said, again, everybody has First Amendment rights, except, if you're a federal judge, and then you're kind of held to a different standard. And because of your position, the threat for him now is that he's going to be looking at potentially an investigation into him and into what he he said to some of these other justices, which could be really, really, really problematic, shall we say. I'm just trying to bring up some of my other scenes here that I want to be able to show you guys because we've got a lot more to get to in today's show. But this Judge Boasberg, I'll tell you, he's a piece of work, and he has been, shall we say, for a while, right? And Pam has known that. Pam came out just slamming him. I want to say it was back in March when she first went up against him, and she said, absolutely no way. Like, he was just out over his skis. He tried to actually stop, if you recall. Remember that? He tried to actually stop the plane, like midair. It had actually already taken off, and then he wanted it to come back, and she was like, you don't have that kind of authority, and you're trying to subvert the will of the American president. So that became a huge, huge problem. Again, if we look at some of this, and this is the judge, you see a picture of him, within some of those statements, they could be certainly taken together as a code of misconduct, right? It was a violation of his code of conduct. And when that happens, you run the risk of eroding any kind of neutrality that the judges are supposed to have. And so that's why she's asking now for a full investigation into this guy. And she may just get it. She may just get it. I'm not saying he's going to get disbarred or anything like that. I don't even know, maybe he should be taken off the case, right? If he has such a personal vindication one way or another. The other thing is maybe he just actually needs to be reprimanded for not speaking out so aggressively to his colleagues on the issue, because again, it's important to at least have the semblance of some kind of objectivity. And we're dealing with judges right now that clearly, I mean, I look again at the Letitia James one and the $500 million, we do not have any objectivity. They are so viciously sort of liberal in their approach. And look, the American people are onto it. And the Democrats are struggling right now. You look at what's going on in the Democrat Party, I mean, for goodness sakes, they're looking to this lady, AOC, right, for some kind of guidance and some kind of leadership, because she apparently represents the future. Are you kidding me? I mean, the approval numbers are devastating for the Democrats, absolutely, positively devastating. And most Americans actually see her, the one who was hit with all these fines because apparently she tried to skip out on her bills there. Nice one, AOC. You know, you got to actually pay for the dress. I realize you're a communist, but you got to actually pay for the thing. So they're looking to her, this little darling, if you would, of the Democrat Party, because they are so up a creek without a paddle. I mean, the Democrats are really, forgive my French, screwed, okay? Because they got no one, they got nothing. And now they're looking to communism. Been there, done that, right? All around the world, that didn't really work. Well, you know, AOC's been there, done that. Tax the rich, the beautiful dress that she wore. She's now being fined upwards of $3,000. She thinks she should be paid, right? She thinks she shouldn't actually have to pay for the dress that she's going to wear to the ball because it's somebody else's responsibility. This is what's so scary about where the party's heading. And I'll say this just as a red-blooded American capitalist. I would like to see the Democrats figure this out and get away from the Mamdanis of the world. He just had his big wedding in Uganda at his family's estate in Uganda. I'd like to get away from these communists, AOC, Bernie Sanders, etc., and focus more on methods that can really help the middle class, which, believe me, is not communism. Certainly not communism. And again, it's been tried. But look at these numbers. This is pretty incredible. If you look at Americans overall, this new poll that just came out from the Wall Street Journal, it shows you over and over and over again, whether it's the economy, inflation, immigration, illegal immigration, tariffs, foreign policy, Ukraine-Russia war, overwhelmingly, the GOP is being preferred, if you would, to the Democrats. And so they don't really know what to do. I mean, they're sort of as I said, up a creek without a paddle, right? They don't know how to negotiate this one because, well, Obama failed them. I'll tell you, Obama, he let Trump in, right? So now they're like, okay, well, maybe we go on Bro podcast. That's one of the ideas from this MSNBC contributor. They need to get out there on Joe Rogan Show a little more. Watch.
Molly, James Tallarico, your thoughts?
He's amazing, and he's doing a thing which I had been so trying to sort of say how important it was for such a long time, which is he is going to the place where the voters are. Right. The only way to get in front of Joe Rogan's, millions, tens of millions and tens of millions of viewers is to go on his show. And that, I think, is so important. The other thing I would say about Joe Rogan is, you'll remember, Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016. The reason that Trump was able to take this ground, right, the podcaster bro landscape, was because Democrats at least seeded it by not going on in these spaces. And they made decisions about why not to go into these spaces that may have been the right decisions at the time, but now are clearly not how to run for office. You can't get in front of these voters any other way but going on these podcasts. And maybe maybe you don't endorse all of their theories and all of their beliefs. You still have to go there because that's where the voters are. And I think Tellerico makes a really great point of doing that. And again, Fox, all of these different spaces, because some of these spaces, viewers will not see a Democrat. And so you have to transmit this information. And when the mainstream media is so small and so splintered, this is the only way to get in front of voters. And so it's by necessity that Democrats have to go in these spaces. And Tellerico did a really great job. And he showed that you can absolutely go in these spaces and you can win these voters over. And we've seen a lot of Democrats go on Rogan and really do well. And it's 2.5 hours. It's hard, but you can definitely do it.
Yeah, unless you're Kamala Harris, in which case you definitely can't do it. And it might actually be 3 hours. Okay. So I don't disagree with her. I mean, you can't live in your little MSNBC, CNN bubble where you're just in your happy place all the time. I'll tell you a story. And we're going to get to their workout videos because they're kind of crazy. But I'll tell you a story. I invited Bernie Sanders on my show years ago on Fox. And actually, not only did I invite him, I got my mom involved. Like I had my mom sort of, she was at for some of you know this, my parents are very liberal. You see what happens. Be careful how biased you are in your politics at the family dinner table because the kids wind up doing the opposite. Anyway, she was at some dinner in New Hampshire with Bernie Sanders, and she went up to him. She was very nice, and she said, "Hey, my daughter would really love to have you on her show. Blah blah blah. Oh, I'd love to come on. I'd love to come on." And she's like, "Okay, her name is Trish. She's on Fox." And he's like, "Oh, no, sorry." Never do Fox, never do Fox. I mean, it was just the whole thing because, they think they don't have to. And so that was wrong of him. And it was wrong of all of these people, all of these candidates that don't go out and do these other podcasts out in the real world, in the real media, because this is the atmosphere and the environment and the medium that has fully taken over. So, they ought to come out onto, a show like mine or a show like Rogan's or anybody else and actually get tested. But they aren't willing to do that, in part because they don't have very good candidates. I mean, when you got the likes of Swalwell, who, I don't know, is he trying to dress up for Fang Fang or something here in this little workout video? This is what they're doing, workout videos, because they think that somehow this is going to bring in the young kids here.
I should be working right now. I should be at the Capitol. I should be in a suit. Instead, Republicans sent us home.
I should be working right now. I should be in Congress. I should be voting to lower your costs.
But Republicans sent us home. You see, this launching of workout videos has become a theme. He follows some others because, here, I want to show you this. They've got a whole bunch of influencers now suddenly talking politics while they work out. Take a peek.
Hey, everybody. I just finished my workout. Hope you got your workout in. What's the weight on it?
All right, so let's talk about housing. I grew up in a working class family here in the Hudson Valley. My mom worked at the Postal Service for 47 years, and my dad was in construction. We didn't have much, but we could afford a roof over our heads. Now, that's getting harder and harder for working families.
You see where I'm going? You see where they're going? I mean, maybe it's not wrong. I mean, they got to try something. Nothing's working. I mean, they got AOC. They got a communist in New York. Oh, and another in Minneapolis. I mean, they got lousy numbers. They're going nowhere. But, they had Pelosi and Schumer and Biden for so long running the show, plus Obama. It's like, guys, you know what? You probably do need to actually step aside and create a new environment for new people. But the new people should not be communists. And I say that as an American. I say that as somebody who wants only the very best for our country and our economy. We need people with real ideas. And that would not include one AOC or Mamdani, who she's trying to get everybody to suddenly be on board with. Come on.
I think a lot of people just need to get to
know folks before they issue an endorsement. And I hope that this conversation can be constructive to bringing the party together and rallying behind our nominee.
In New York City. Are you kidding? By the way, just a quick word on that. My heart breaks for the people that have lost their lives because of that crazy situation. And I'm very familiar with that area, exactly where it is. I used to catch the train there almost every day. And it's just awful. And it sort of scares everyone, I think, right to their core when they hear stuff like that. But it's all the more reason why you need security and safety and police officers. And you can't defund the police. And you need more of that sort of law and order, basically, everywhere you are in the country, right? Including in New York City. Mamdani would not bring that. No. He wants to basically tear everything apart. And this lady who stiffs the designer on the dress, I mean, they were hounding her. She got them to reduce the price on all that stuff. And then she tried to walk out on the actual bills. Of course she did. Don't kid yourself. I mean, you'd have real big problems if she actually got further up in the power chain, or if this communist came to be the mayor of New York City.
We have a choice to listen to that message that people are sending us or not. This isn't just about Mr. Mamdani as an individual. This is about the message that the people of New York City are trying to send to our party.
Mm-hmm. Because your party's dying a very fast death. And I think you know it. I mean, you're going to have to get creative. Here's Rev Sharpton having a heart attack over those Wall Street Journal poll numbers. Rev Sharpton, you got to step aside.
And speaking of polling, a new Wall Street Journal poll shows Democrats getting their lowest approval number among voters in 35 years, with Republicans outperforming them by nearly 20 points. How big of a red flag should this be for Democrats a year before the midterms? And what can they do to improve their perception among voters?
It's red everywhere, Rev. And it's not just a red flag. This is a blaring red alarm that Democrats should not ignore. And I say that thinking about how angry people are, because Democrats specifically ran on a platform in 2024 about how dangerous Donald Trump is, how he would lead an authoritarian type of regime in this administration, and how he is now acting on that. And Democrats have yet to formulate an explicit, comprehensive response to someone that they identified as a threat. They're not treating him as a threat. There's these attempts to use normal tactics in politics that no longer apply to the playbook or the reality that we're experiencing. And I think it's important for Democrats to listen to this and recalibrate, even including how they treat candidates who do excite voters, who do expand the number of people engaging in elections. And of course, I'm talking about New York City mayoral candidate, the Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani. The fact that Democrats have not overwhelmingly endorsed his campaign and then see this type of polling, which show them down, means that they need to reset themselves, not only in responding to Donald Trump, but also in engaging younger candidates.
No. I mean, I don't need to help them, but this is what they just don't get. Donald Trump actually took over a lot of their space. I mean, think about the unions that were for Donald Trump overwhelmingly, right? You look at how the breakdown was in the actual unions, who they were voting for. It certainly wasn't Kamala Harris. I mean, this is what they keep missing. They're trying to overthink it all. And again, I don't need to do their job for them, but the answer is not to double down on the quote-unquote fight, like they keep saying, and then to embrace a bunch of communists. The answer is to come back to the center and stop being out there in crazy town, okay? This MSNBC contributor, is he still on MSNBC? I kind of question. They've had a lot of rotation, shall we say, there. But this is one Jonathan Capehart, I think, speaking on another network, saying, we got to fight. No, you got to get smart and practical and care about the very people that you pretend to care about.
When you fight, you're going to piss somebody off, excuse me. And so I think, when Donald Trump won in 2016, I spent the next year talking to all sorts of people, trying to understand, how did this guy win the presidency when he ran? He was opposite everything Republicans told me that they wanted in a president. And the number one through line was he fights. And what Democrats are now demanding of their leaders is they know, I think Democratic party faithful, they know that that their leaders are in the minority, that there's not much that they can do. But you're just going to sit there and just let this happen? We need
I'm sorry, you guys were doing that already. Like, you already did that. You're actually trying to control the media and, spin a bunch of lies. I mean, you fought already. You fought and you lost. So if I were you, I might be like rethinking how I think about things right about now. I mean, I might actually be celebrating things like, what do you know? We got an EU trade deal. What do you know? 15% tariff. Oh gosh, it's going to bring in a lot of revenue for the United States. Gosh darn it. What can we do with that revenue? I mean, there might be some really cool things that we could do with the revenue. I mean, Donald Trump is already talking about it. For example, he said maybe rebates are a possibility. Maybe we can pay some debt down. I mean, you guys should be all over this. You should be applauding this. This should be like one of your issues, but you keep losing because you don't understand one basic human nature. You have only to look at the Sidney Sweeney uproar to see that. We'll get to that in a second. Or just the fact that you got to actually look out for the people that are your constituents, for goodness sakes. Trump gets this.
Do you think there's the possibility of a rebate?
The reporter is asking, is there a possibility of a rebate?
We're thinking about that, actually. We have so much money coming in. We're thinking about a little rebate, but the big thing we want to do is pay down debt. So we're thinking about a rebate. That's a very good question.
You're like, hey, you just made news, buddy boy, because that's actually a very good question. What do we do with all this money that's coming in? You get $750 billion that's going to be going to the energy industry. You get another $600 billion that's coming in as investment. And then you get the 15% that you're going to be collecting off the tariffs. So do you do a rebate? I'm sure he'd like that. Do you pay off some debt? What about this? I'm going to just throw it out there because Social Security, coming up on 90 years, 90th birthday of Social Security happening this August. Maybe the answer is you actually start looking at maybe some reform there. Maybe you can put some money into the Social Security pot. I don't know. But this is an opportunity now because we've got somebody who's actually creative about this stuff in the Oval Office to tackle some of these big issues. And believe me, he wants to tackle them. Unlike most presidents, unlike the Bidens of the world, he's rolling up his sleeves. He's ready, willing, and able. I asked, actually, one of the senior people over at AARP, which I'm old enough to join now, this very issue about Social Security because it's running out of money relatively soon. And quickly, I just want you to hear his answer. You can listen to the whole interview. We're going to put it up later. But I just want you to think about how this president is thinking about things differently. Listen.
By 2034, Congress needs to act. If they don't act by 2034, then unfortunately those on Social Security will only be able to receive about 80% of the current benefits that they receive.
It seems like Donald Trump wants to fix a lot of problems. He's out, cheering the recent deal that he did with the EU. He's talking about even the possibility of rebates. I wonder if some of this revenue that we're getting from these tariffs could be put to use in terms of perhaps dealing with some of the structural Social Security problems?
That I don't know the answer to, but I would say that anytime you can get creative with some revenue to help with the shortfall is greatly appreciated by us. And so how it gets done really is up to both members of Congress and the Senate and President Trump. I would say that President Trump really understands and has championed Social Security over the past several years as well. I mean, he's a different kind of Republican. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. He has promised to preserve and protect it for future generations. And so we're hopeful that, maybe we can do something and get it fixed for the long run under his leadership as we move.
Well, it would be another feather in his cap. It certainly would be, right? And if there was anybody that was really going to try and tackle this, it would be him. If you're interested in kind of contributing to the conversation and thinking through some of the ways that we can do this, I encourage you, one, to listen to the entire interview with John. It'll be going up later on the channel today. And then go over to aarp.org. We earned it because, you know what? This has to get fixed. It just has to get fixed. I'm telling you. And I actually think Donald Trump could take it on. But, he's got a lot of good stuff going on. You got all this trade stuff going on. You get the $750 billion in energy deals, lots of good stuff to be excited about, right? And I'm looking at the markets, I'm looking at the reaction, and I think there's a lot of reason for people to feel really optimistic. And so I'm just excited about that. I'm excited about the future. You know, I've said to you before, make sure you go to Invest in MAGA, investinmaga.com. It's a site that we put together, Rob and I over at 76 Research, for some ideas on just what's great out there right now. Quick word from one of our sponsors, Balance of Nature. I'm over here in Ireland, right? And everything's like super, super healthy. And they don't put all the bad stuff into things like red dye and all the fillers and all that. You know, in fact, the Kit Kats, I gotta just say, the Kit Kats are awesome. I'm like, why doesn't the chocolate taste waxy? Oh, because they don't have all those bad ingredients. Well, you know who else doesn't have all those bad ingredients into the vitamin products that they put out? Balance of Nature. I encourage you guys to go over and take a look at Balance of Nature today and make sure you use my code word. You're helping the show. You're helping yourself. You get 35% off. 35% off, you guys, for Balance of Nature. I take the fruits and veggies, but you can actually, they've got a whole bunch of things, whole bunch of products right there on their site. So it's balanceofnature.com. Use code word Trish, Trish. You know how to spell my name. And take a look. I'm also going to put their number there in the show notes. You can call them 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751. But free shipping, 35% off, and money back guarantee with the code word Trish. Have you guys seen this story on American Eagle? Did you catch this one at all? Because, you know, as we talk about the Democrats and how they're just so out to lunch, I think that this is another great example. By the way, reminder, subscribe, share, like, all that stuff. Sweeney is remaking American Eagle as a brand, like single-handedly, because I'm just going to say it. She's hot, okay? This girl is hot. Capital H-O-T. Sidney Sweeney is very hot. And they finally have somebody who is hot wearing their jeans. But the left is really mad about this because the way they've conducted or marketed the campaign, they're saying that Sidney Sweeney has good genes. Right? You guys have been really generous and nice to me. Sometimes you see pictures of me and my family on Instagram and you're like, oh, you have great genes, right? And that's like a nice thing to say. And it, you know, it just sort of means, you know, whatever, you know, you have good genes, right? Like, and I do. My mom, like, people think she's my sister, and it's a little annoying, but I got good genes. And my girls got good genes, my son got good genes, it's all good, right? And like, we say this is a normal expression, but somehow, because they decided to use a really attractive young woman to wear the jeans in this new American Eagle commercial campaign, somehow now they're all a bunch of eugenics type people that are trying to like reinvent the race. I mean, I didn't even get it at first. One of the guys on our team, David, he sends me the story and I'm like, oh, I don't understand. Like, good jeans. Yeah. Oh, that's cute. You know, she's wearing jeans. She's got good jeans. Like, she's hot, right? She's selling jeans. I'm kind of happy that we're getting back to a normal world where you can be aspirational again, because when I was getting the Victoria's Secret catalogs and there were the very large plus size women on them, I mean, my family would laugh at me because I was like really offended. Like, I'm like, what the heck? What the heck is going on? Why do I don't want to see this. Like, even if I were that, like, I want to be somewhat aspirational and know that I could look like that, right? Like, it's very, so they're sort of like coming full circle back, and the left is going nuts. And they're making comments about the fact that, well, the company's called American Eagle and it's Sidney Sweeney and she's blonde. Oh my gosh, you can't have a blonde woman. And I mean, this is like some kind of reverse discrimination, if you would. Right? Yeah, they were so crazy with all the DEI stuff. I think this was their 2019 campaign and everybody was large and in charge, right? And that was supposed to be the jean commercial back then. And then you put this woman on and everybody freaks out. You're not allowed to have a pretty looking girl modeling your jeans, saying it's good jeans. Give me a break. Listen to this crazy Looney Tune lady trying to somehow say that this is something really, really awful, which it's not. It's just a hot girl in a good pair of jeans. Come on.
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda.
What? What do you guys think of that? I'm just curious. I'm going to look at your comments as I'm speaking here. I mean, the media's weighing in one after another. Look at this. Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle ad faces backlash for racial undertone. Like, why does your head go straight there? It's kind of clever. Good genes, good genes. It doesn't matter, like, actually, if she's black or white, for goodness sakes, or Hispanic. An attractive woman can be any nationality. All right? She's just attractive, and therefore you say she's got good genes. Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle campaign sparks intense criticism. The marketing magic behind, somebody's being nice, behind Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle campaign. That's the business of fashion that actually took a more positive approach. But a lot of these things, look at NBC News, American Eagle sparks backlash for touting Sydney Sweeney's great genes. Sydney Sweeney's racy ad sparks outrage. But I'm sorry, like, the outrage from what? Like, we're supposed to just worship people that don't actually take good care of themselves? Like, that are struggling with obesity? And, I'm sorry, like, it's a real thing to struggle with, don't get me wrong. But, like, why is that supposed to be the new standard of beauty in their eyes? Why can't we say, hey, she's got good genes? Why does it have to turn into something it absolutely positively shouldn't? I don't know. Again, this is the old campaign. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I think that, they've just been able to sort of blow things wide open with this girl, because this is a whole new sort of style. I have some of the video that came out of her, and I want to show you guys. I'll tell you this too. The stock price actually went up, which was funny to me to see. I think there's some profit sharing taking today, but this is partly, it's become a little bit of a meme stock and that kind of thing. But investors, they were okay with it. Take a peek, watch.
Composition often is determined by my genes, like hair color, personality, and even eye color. Eyes up here.
Sydney Sweeney has great genes.
You get it? Right? Sydney Sweeney has great genes. And you know what? The company actually rallied on the news. They've kind of been nowhere. But now maybe all the kids will want to wear those jeans because, again, what is marketing but trying to kind of make people think, hey, this could be you too, right? That's what's involved in marketing. So there's an aspirational tone to it. And so young girls look at her and they say, wow, she's really beautiful. She's really beautiful, and maybe I'll look like that too if I wear those jeans. And somehow that's not okay with the liberal media. And that's how like we've sort of jumped the shark. We've gone too far. And the fact that Wall Street is recognizing that this was a smart ad campaign, there's like one business publication, a fashion journal, that's recognizing it was a smart ad campaign. And I'm sitting there going, well, why did you morons do all those stupid ad campaigns for so long? I mean, you want to talk moronic, we can go back to the Bud Light campaign that absolutely destroyed that woman's career, right? The marketing executive from Harvard who thought she was so smart and she just didn't want, those sort of frat guys anymore drinking the beer, I guess. She wanted to like expand the audience, and somehow she thought that she was going to get a bunch of women drinking if she just chose that, I've forgotten the name of that transgender person that did that big commercial. Okay, I'm sorry. Listen. You gotta think about your brand. Who are you targeting? If you're American Eagle, you're probably targeting a lot of middle American girls. And so Sydney Sweeney's gonna bring them in. And you know what else? She's gotten a lot of attention for this. I'd say a heck of a lot of attention for this. So good for the company, good for her, good for America. Everybody just needs to take a chill pill, okay? It's not what you think. I know you wanna go there, but those days are, I'm glad to say, very much over. Are they not? They really are. We can say what we think now. We can always, I've always said what I think. That's part of my problem, actually. It's good to have you guys. Again, remember to subscribe. And what did I say? I was coming to you from the sunny southeast of Ireland. And take a look behind me. Sun is out. So it happened right here live on the program. I have a ton of relatives coming over for dinner tonight. So I'm cooking it, well, do a little cooking, a big meal. I'm going to rely on some family members as well, but we've got a big night up ahead. There's a piano behind me, so I'm counting on my dad to sing some of his Irish tunes, some of which he's written, and it should be a pretty fun night. I love that you're here. I haven't seen Rosie yet. What should I say to her when I do? I don't know. I don't think I'll see her. You know, it's a small country. It really is, but a big one too. I just want to check some of your messages here before we go and encourage you all to make sure you subscribe, that you share, you like, that you make a comment. Let me know. Should we be getting rid of The View? What do you think about Sidney Sweeney? I think it's great. I mean, I don't interpret this the way that, you know, crazy woke media does. But, you know, I'm a little different than most. I have a feeling you're more like me, though. I have a feeling you're more like me because you're probably a realist if you're here watching this show. Thank you. You're also very, very nice. Peace of my mind. I totally agree. Bye woke. You know, we could make a song about it. Bye woke. I'll see you right here live again on the Trish Regan Show. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you know when I'm live tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone.